Have you ever been surrounded by celebrations, yet felt more alone than you ever have in your life? The festive season. I spent talking to the walls. This festive season was supposed to feel warm, lights everywhere, smiles on faces, music floating through the air. But for me, it felt empty. This is my first holiday season alone after my divorce. No shared plans, no familiar voice in the next room, no one asking, "What do you want to eat today?" Just me, and a quiet house that echoes every thought I try to silence. I didn't expect the loneliness to hit this hard. I thought I was prepared. After all, the marriage had already ended months ago. The arguments were over. The apologies were exhausted. The papers were signed. I told myself I had healed. But healing looks different when the holidays arrive. I woke up that morning to the sound of laughter drifting through the air. Neighbors greeting relatives, children running around with excitement. Somewhere nearby, music played softly, the kind of music that feels happier when you're not alone. I stayed in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, listening to other people live the life I used to have. Eventually, I forced myself up. I made tea, 1 cup. I still reached for 2 mugs before realizing there was no one else. That moment stung more than I expected. The decorations around the house felt louder than usual. The lights blinked cheerfully, almost mocking how heavy my chest felt. These were decorations I once loved, decorations we picked together. This year, they felt like strangers. I turned off some of the lights and closed the curtains halfway, letting in just enough daylight to remind me the world was still moving. I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, scrolling slowly. I wasn't really scrolling for entertainment. I was scrolling for proof that someone remembered me. No new messages, no invitations, no, "Are you okay?" Just silence dressed up as peace. That's when it hit me. When you're married, people assume you're never lonely. And when you divorce, they assume you're strong enough to handle being alone. Nobody asks about the nights. Nobody asks about the quiet. I tried to distract myself. I turned on the TV, but every channel seemed to show happy families, couples laughing, or people celebrating love. I watched for a few minutes, then turned it off. The silence rushed back in immediately. At some point, I started talking out loud, not to anyone in particular, just filling the space, saying things like, "Okay, let's clean up a bit," or "It's not that bad." I answered myself too. That scared me, not because I was losing my mind, but because I realized how long it had been since someone truly listened to me. I wasn't lonely because I missed my ex-husband. I was lonely because I missed connection. Someone to share the smallest moments with. Someone to hear my voice without me explaining myself. Someone to exist beside me, even in silence. In the afternoon, I decided to cook a proper meal. I didn't rush it. I chopped slowly, stirred carefully, letting the smell fill the house. Cooking used to feel like teamwork. Now, it felt like a performance for an empty audience. For a brief second, I imagined someone walking in and saying, "That smells good." No one did. I sat at the dining table alone, eating quietly. The chair across from me stayed empty. I noticed things I never used to. The ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the way the house seemed to breathe without me. I didn't cry immediately. I just sat there, realizing how different my life had become. Later that evening, I went outside for a short walk. The air was cool and calm. Fireworks cracked somewhere far away. People cheering, people hugging, people welcoming new beginnings. I stood there, hands in my pockets, watching from a distance. Everyone else seemed to be celebrating the future. I was still learning how to survive an ending. But as I stood there, something inside me softened. I realized that even though I was alone, I was still here, still standing, still breathing, still capable of rebuilding, even if I didn't know what that rebuilding would look like yet. When I returned home, I lit a candle and placed it on the table. One small flame in a quiet room. I sat beside it, watching it flicker, and whispered to myself, "This is not the end of your story. Loneliness doesn't mean failure, it means transition. This festive season didn't give me joy the way it used to, but it gave me something else, awareness, the understanding that I deserve love again someday, and that until then I must learn how to be gentle with myself." I went to bed alone that night, but for the first time I didn't feel completely abandoned, just becoming.